Hello, Sebastian. Hello, Peter.
Hello,
Hello.
nice to see you, Sai. Nice to see you, Peter, and nice to see all of the people who attend our event.
Fantastic. And we
Hi, guys.
definitely, fantastic. And we definitely want to recognize this is the first LinkedIn live event that we have. So definitely the first one. We welcome everyone. We welcome those that will be listening, of course, to the recording. And by all means, this is the first of many to come. So all good things.
Yeah, that's great that we have an opportunity to meet the first time on the LinkedIn Live and share our thoughts about the Antifragility and Antifragility Institute and the House of Antifragility.
Wonderful. So Peter and Sebastian, I would love for you both to introduce yourselves, and I'll introduce myself ever so briefly, gentlemen.
Peter, use the microphone.
Okay, thank you so much for invitation. It's a pleasure for me to talk in first meeting in LinkedIn environment according to Antifragility Institute. We are co-founders. I'm proud for it. In this situation is very comfortable for me. My experience is 25 years according to information technology solutions and IT auditing. I was an external expert of GRC governance compliance at Wolters Kluwer. And in years 2009-2012, deputy director of the internal audit department in the social assurance institution and University Warsaw University of Technology for 9 years. I was an employee of in the National Bank of Poland, including 6 years in internal audit department and 3 years in strategic management team. Now I'm co-founder Antifragility Institute. I am authoring 30 publication about auditing, risk management, compliance, IT governance, and we have 2 companies, and we very often talking about antifragility in our perspective to our clients.
Excellent, Sebastian.
Okay, so I have 10 years less than Peter, so I've got around 15 years of experience, especially in the GRC audit, IT audit, cybersecurity, and I'm also the co-founder of 2 companies, also co-founder of the Antifragility Institute. Besides this, I'm very interested in martial arts. I'm the runner. I'm also the practitioner of the Wim Hof method and the oxygen advantage practitioner. And it's quite interesting because I try to expose myself in the business and in the private life for external stress. And sometimes you could see my pictures in the winter in the ice cold inside the barrel in my backyard.
Wonderful, wonderful. And likewise, I'm Sai Al-Hur, co-founder with Sebastian and Peter around the Antifragility Institute. And briefly about my background, and of course, you have access to our LinkedIn profiles. I come from a broad and deep background in transformation in all that word encompasses, and really partnering with organizations, individuals, groups for ultimate business impact. Very keenly dipping into all of the things that Sebastian and Peter have mentioned, amongst others. But definitely my background is available on LinkedIn. So it's great to be together, and it's great to have the first LinkedIn event. gentlemen, as maybe just as a intro to the community and what have you, what is anti-fragility all about for us and the way that it's defined through Taleb, etc.? If you'd both like to comment, then I'll comment likewise.
Sai, please start, and we'll continue.
Okay, all right, my friend. So you know, there's a lot of words, right, that we use in every domain. We talk about order, we talk about disorder, right? We talk about change, we talk about disruption, right? We talk about risk, we talk about uncertainty. There's a lot of words that we use. If we look at all of that, essentially it boils down to how do we deal with the stresses of these concepts, and how do we leverage these stresses? And as we all know, the whole notion of stress is there's a source of stress, and likewise there is a range of stress that any organization, any group, or any individual can tolerate. And we want to channel that stress to achieve growth. So there's a notion of distress and eustress. We want to channel it to achieve growth. So if we look at that, then fundamentally we can talk about anti-fragility as a way to survive and thrive, if you will, particularly thrive based on the stresses that can be encountered in that world. And I think Taleb's subtitle to his book, you know, Growing from Disorder, is a very powerful summary of what that means. I'll add one other thing, if you will, before Sebastian and Peter, you chime in. A lot of people will say, you know, we're doing that already. If we compare the notion of fragility to anti-fragility, we can say based on all this stress, from a fragile perspective, you can be at best unharmed. But from an anti-fragile perspective, you can say at worst unharmed. So we want to channel that stress to grow, to survive and thrive. Broad set of words, broad sort of description, but I definitely want to hear kind of your voices and additions and refinements to what I've put out there, Sebastian and Peter.
Okay, so I will start after you. So I look at the antifragility as some sort of, let's say in today's world, vaccine for today turbulent, high speed and high changing world around us. So because of the globalization and a lot of risk and, let's say, uncertainty, because risk we could assess, but we couldn't predict the things that are certain. So the antifragility as a complex thinking or the systemic thinking is the way that we could create our own system in the business or in team or daily life to grow from the around the change that is around us. So the change is in the IT, the technology environment, in the law environment, in the business environment. All environments are changing very fast around us. And the answer for this, it's not only the resilience of ourselves, our companies, our business, but also the agility and the way we could adapt to those changes and use it as the potential risk, but in the positive way to grow and to use it for business for a business advantage, not only as a threat, but as something that is our advantage.
In my opinion, I look at antifragility as a business opportunity because my personal experience is the putting continuity plans and procedures, especially disaster recovery procedure, in place is very expensive, difficult, often ineffective, and disruptive to achieving goals or strategic objectives, for example. That is why antifragility is needed. Is similar to human biological immunity. Antifragility is business resilience for me. It is intelligence of the business. Everyone today is looking at artificial intelligence. In my opinion, antifragility is an element of business intelligence. We are the group business and technology professionals and co-founders, the first in the world Antifragility Institute, according to Nicola Nassim Taleb methodologies and publication.
Excellent. And I think it is so broad of a concept that it really ties in agility, it ties in resilience, it ties in robustness, amongst other things, and it is very widely applicative. Sebastian and Peter, I think one of the key things, and I think, Sebastian, you emphasized this as well, complexity is at the root of a lot of this. And really, ecosystem thinking is one key driver that I know I've leveraged, and likewise, in our interactions, I've sensed that you've leveraged that allow us to propel this. Any sort of additional thoughts around that, or anything else to add relative to ecosystems or anything of that nature? Because I know that's a core pillar for me. But definitely invite your comments, and then we can talk a little bit more about the Institute.
Okay, so I think the way the ecosystem thinking should be used in the anti-fragility thinking is different perspective of thinking about the risks and the events, because especially till now we think in the linear way, so only from one point to the another point in time, but it's not that simple. Especially I worked for almost 12 years in the aerospace industry, and if we are looking at the air incidents, it's not always one root cause that implied the incident. It's always a lot of root causes that at the end cause the incident, and it's very similar to the systemic thinking. You could not think about things that it is just linear, and it's also very important in today's world that the risk, it's very hard to measure because like I said before, there are a lot of turmoil around us and a lot of change around us, and it's very hard to predict what will happen in 2 years ahead of us. So that's why it's better to think of the cause of the probability of the risk, but not the probability, because we could not assess the probability. It's similar also to the way we think in the risk in the chain of companies that provide us some services or the products. If it's the 4 of the 5 companies in this chain, we could not predict what will happen or the possibility that something could happen, but we could predict what if anything happened, how it affects us.
Thank you, Sebastian. Peter, please.
In my perspective, we very often analyze risk and stop there, and risk analysis is often theoretical. In my opinion, anti-fragility is a chance for organization and goes further. It allows you to convert risk into real ways to defend against the risk. Our clients often ask us for risk analysis, but the practical environment is go along from the theoretical perspective to the real and practical environment. In my opinion, this is a chance for the practical organization and grow the all aspects to improve environment.
Excellent. Thank you, Sebastian and Peter. Definitely. Just as again, our sort of inaugural webcast, if you will, would love for you both to share a little bit of kind of briefly what your vision, what's driving sort of your passion relative to the Institute, and then I'll share some of my perspective. So why the Institute is a key question. Sebastian,
Simon, maybe you will start. Right now. Yeah.
Definitely. So there's definitely a lot of concepts that we're talking about, and the practice of those concepts. And I know since my book came out, which captured my experience for a number of decades historically, so it isn't new for me, and I know your experience is rich and broad and deep likewise. So from my vantage point, very particularly why working with both of you, the Institute is really focused on helping people have a deeper and broader impact. As I like to say, everything that we're talking about, if you will, is really hovering around practice-informed theory. Everything that I'm sharing is essentially coming from practice. So it's practice-informed theory is one side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin, it's theory-driven practice. So we're learning together, we're sharing together, right? We're taking those learnings and essentially translating those for impact. So to build community, to learn together, to grow together, in a sense, really test our own anti-fragility as we grow through the journey forward, and helping organizations, groups, as well as individuals. That's very key for me. So, please, add in sort of what your thoughts are, Sebastian and Peter, relative to the why of the Institute.
In my opinion, the science needs leaders. As people need structures. In the Institute, we want to share knowledge. We want to gather people who think outside of the box. Our mission is to convince others that anti-fragility is a value. This is the first my point of view, because I was decided to be co-founder this institute from my deep heart.
Excellent.
I think what is really really interesting in our work, it's the way we try to share in the structured way, as Peter said, our experience. So it's not only talking, but we try to create the structures, the principles. We use it in our own business with our clients or in our life. So that's why we created the house, and we try to develop the idea of the house of anti-fragility, creating the guidelines. Maybe in the near future, we will create the maturity model of the anti-fragility, and so on. So the idea is to create the principles, the standards, or the framework that everyone could use. So it's the beginning, and of course, it's not only three of us. We would like to create the community around the Anti-Fragility Institute, and the idea of the anti-fragility. So all the people could share their experience to others, and to contribute to Institute, and Institute will contribute to them to share what is the best in us, to create much less fragility around us.
Excellent.
The important thing is the standards, the methodologies. They are not artificial product that we want to sell. They belong to everyone who wants to use them. We want to invite everyone to create a common environment, anti-fragility, according to the House of Fragility, the first our product, and in my opinion, is a very practical and very useful environment. And we invite everybody who can cooperate with us.
Excellent. Excellent. So to really summarize our view relative to, if you don't mind, if you will, it's practice and theory. It's very, very key, practice and theory. It's not just theory. We're using these concepts, and we have been for years. It's to create the foundation of principles, right? Frames of reference, if you will, standards. And it isn't just us, exactly as we've said, it's the community, and likewise, bringing parties together and learning and growing together. So gentlemen, I know this is, again, our first event. We've kind of, opened up the conversation. We're going to have many more conversations. Anything just to close out before we say thank you for those that have joined us, and like those that will listen to the recording, but anything to close out, Sebastian and Peter?
I think it's very important that you guys that join our event is to look at our website and what we would like to provide for you. And in few weeks we'll share our new products and new services, but new ideas that you could use it in your business or in daily life.
Excellent. Peter, anything, my friend, to close out?
Thank you. Summarize very, very short. I can share the information that every our meeting is creative, and every meeting we learn from each other, and every meeting is value from my personal and job perspective, and this is a real value for me. As told and as co-founder Antifragility Institute, this is very valuation and useful for my perspective, my future perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful. So definitively more to come. And the House of Antifragility, exactly as you both mentioned, has been the first sort of core culmination of our experiences together. And definitively, we've all got different backgrounds that are coming together, and more to come as we move forward with each other and with the community. So with that, thanks for those that have joined us. Thank you for those that will be listening to the recording. And we look forward to our next conversation and event. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.